This is Shelly Cook, and this is Small Town, Big Vision. So my name is Shelly Cook, and I'm just an ordinary, everyday small town girl that has a lot of drive and ambition to help people. I think it's all about helping others and not so much about achieving more and more and more. I think that comes naturally when you try to help people. I think that it naturally becomes that you're helping others and you achieve more. So I started out when I was 29 after the death of my husband. And like a lot of women that have lost their husband, I didn't know what to do because he was the other part of me. And so when I lost him, I found myself praying a lot and seeking God and saying, you know, where do I go from here? I had a small child, I had a full-time job, and as crazy as this sounds, the Lord told me to build an assisted living. I had no business experience. I'd never owned a business. I'd never done any of that. I'd never built the first structure. I worked as a contract administrator, so I had a lot of experience with that, but I'd never actually done it. Put the business plan together, worked really hard, drew what I wanted it to be on a placemat. And from that day to today, I haven't looked back. I've built since 2003. I built a commercial assisted living facility in 1998. It opened, and I ran it for 20 years and sold it in 2015. Started residential building, and again, I'd been building since 2003, but more so for myself than for others, rehabbing and things like that. But all the while, we started a food pantry called Loaves and Fishes Food Pantry in 2011. We rehabbed the senior center in 2007. Gave it a whole new facelift. But I think it's when your drive is to change things for the better. And so that's why this is a small town, but I have a really big vision for it. And I want to see it, I want people to see it through my eyes. And I want to rehab the parts of Front Royal that need just a little love and attention now. Things from my past that I remember seeing, like the John Marshall Highway project that I remember seeing as a child coming into the gateway. I'm rehabbing it now so that the future generations, when they come into Front Royal, will have that same welcome back to our small town. Well, I think Front Royal is just a community where you can still go down the street and know everybody. You know, you just know it's still small enough to be the hometown where when somebody, like there was just a child that was lost. I don't know what his name was in Bentonville. And he got killed on the Richmond River. Everybody heard about this. I can't think of the name, the little boy's name. Anyway, him and 3 boys went fishing in brackish water. And they had a vigil at Skyline High School, and they had prayer meetings all over town for him. He did pass away, but I think the family saw that there was such a sense of compassion and love from the community that it truly healed their soul. It didn't save their son. It was his time. You know, God has a time for us. That's what it says in Ecclesiastes. There's a time and a place for everything under heaven. And so people ask me all the time, Shelly, why? And I say, you can't ask why. It's not ours to ask. When it's our time, it's not why. It's, I'll see you in a little while. It's just not your time. It's theirs. So it's like I told those parents, you know, as young as he was, he did what he was meant to do here. His time was done. And as much as it hurts us, he's happy now. He's fulfilled. So, but I think this small town, I want people to see what I see through my eyes, and the small shops and you know, coming to this small town. It's kind of like that one store. They said on HGTV. She says, "I think we're going to rebuild this in about 10 years." The whole town. And all she said was it was just because she liked the small town. I think that we've allowed a lot of the places in Front Royal to run down to the point that they just need love. Like the place on John Marshall Highway, like the Yellow House. I call it the Yellow House because for years, Jean Rudisill ran the flower shop and she owned the Yellow House. And before that, Fred from Fred's Jewelers owned the house, and he sold it to Jean. And it was just the corner. It was the corner when you passed through town, you saw the Yellow House. And so I wanted my office to be in there because I wanted to rebuild a portion of the town that I knew that people, when they passed by the courthouse, they always remember the Yellow House. And so Jean's was a florist shop for years. So I'm gonna start a little small sandwich and dessert restaurant, and I'm calling it Poppy's Place. After my dad, I call him Poppy, and after Jean, who had the florist shop because of poppies. And she sold flowers. So I think when we rebuild things, we don't have to take away from the beauty of what they are, we just have to add our own twist to it. And that's what I'm trying to do, is take something that's already beautiful, already wonderful, and just put my twist on it. So I don't want to make it, I just want to revive it, rebuild it, so that people, when they come here, can see what I see through my eyes, the beauty of my small town. As a Christian, one of the basic principles of Christianity is to love, and above all, love. Jesus said, "If you love me, feed my sheep." And so I started a food pantry called Loaves and Fishes. But also the basic principle, I think it's in John, he says, if your neighbor comes to you and he has a need and you turn him away, what have you done? Basically what he was saying is that we have to leave things better than we found it. And that's what I tell myself. I want to leave things better than I found it. It's as crazy as it sounds, if I have a shopping cart, I don't leave it in the middle of the parking lot, because I put it back, because I leave it better than I found it. So if there's another one, even though I didn't do it, I take it back with me. If I see something messed up on a counter, I leave it better than I found it. I think if we all, Mother Teresa said, if you can't feed the world, go home and feed your family and feed just one. In other words, if everybody fed just one more person. So my life, I feel, is about making things better, leaving it better than I found it. It won't be perfect. I can't help everyone. I can't rebuild every building. But what makes me tick is that I love the Lord. He's first in my life. I want to help my community. I want to help my neighbors. And the way I get through it all is I just say to myself, I'm just going to leave it better than I found it.
Do you give to others?
Well, I can share how I grew up. I didn't have anything. I mean, basically, I know what it is. I know what it is to not have enough money to survive. A lot of people ask me why I do what I do, and I guess it's just because I'm real. God has given me the blessing of living as a middle class and as a struggling poor class, because I had a mother that had cancer. And she was very, very sick. From the time I was 12 years old, I didn't have that normal childhood life. She was sick, and I had to take care of the family, and I had to take care of so many things that children don't think about. Most kids were going to gymnastics and cheerleading, and I did that too. but I had to come home and help a mother that was having chemotherapy. And I began understanding, and I couldn't have what everybody else had. I remember I had 2 pair of pants in junior high school, and everybody had Agner pocketbooks, and which is like a Tory Burch now, and or one of those other big names. I'm not into it. I go to Walmart and get my purses. So my kids get me those purses because that's what they can think to get me, because I don't ever want anything. So, but I remember going to school. My mother was home. She was on chemotherapy. And I really hope I don't lose it on this. And I had 2 pair of pants, but I wouldn't complain, and 1 pair of shoes, because they were paying for chemotherapy and hospital bills. And I went to school that day, and there was a dance that night. And I wanted to go to the dance, so I came home, but my mom didn't have my other pair of pants clean because she was sick. And so I didn't ask her. And I went to the dance, and the children teased me because my pants were worn and they could see my skin through them. And I went home, and my mom knew I was upset, and she said, "You have to understand." She was sitting there with that turban on, and she said, "Honey, what's wrong?" And I said, "Well, Mom," I said, "you know, kids don't understand." And she said, "Honey," she said, "we want you to have the best life you can have." She said, "We'll see about getting you some new pants." And I remember the next day, and she told me, she said, you make sure you love them anyway. She could have said, "I'm going to be angry at them." She could have said, I wanted her to be mad, and she wasn't. She just said, "You forgive them, honey, and love them anyway. They didn't mean it." And the next day, she bought me 2 pairs of jeans instead of corduroys. She said, "These won't wear, dear." But I grew up with a broken twin bed and a broken stereo. But what wasn't broken was the love I had. She adored us, and every moment was cherished because we didn't know when it would be our last. I had to take care of her every day, and that was okay. I was a national speech competitor. I was a cheerleader. But my favorite thing in the world was helping my mama every day. And so I grew up learning what was important. And as I've aged, I've carried that with me. Material things really don't matter. People do. And so what makes me who I am, because they want to know why I am the way I am, is I understand what really truly matters in the depths of my soul is people, and I love them. I love them unconditionally. And even though you get hurt when you love people, it's okay. You forgive them and you love them anyway, because people are hurting, and hurting people hurt people. And so you can't change the world, you can just love them. And so, like with this little town, I just want people to, I keep saying that, I want them to see it through my eyes. I just want to make it better. And so if I can leave my little piece here and make it better, then that's what I want to do.
And that type thing can help people because they understand why you do these things. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I do stuff, is because I want them to realize it in themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I started Loving Arms, the assisted living, I didn't have anybody. I had my son, and I had to survive, so I had Jesus. That was it. I had $80,000 and a dream. And I knew at the end of the day, the only thing that was going to get me through was the favor of God to help me. I had a bank. I literally had a bathtub, concrete bathtub, I call it. We'd poured the footers, poured the basement walls, and then the bank told me they couldn't do it. I was too young. Every bit of my $80,000 he left me was gone. And I knew if they didn't give that to me, that I had no other, resources. But God showed up and showed off, and I got one of the only variances in the state history from the governor. He granted me a variance for my septic field so that we could put the septic in. That is amazing. I mean, you just don't hear about a variance. It doesn't happen that often, but he issued that for me when I wrote the letter to the governor. So it's some of those things that you see and you hear that you just know that God is with you, and that if you really pray and believe and have faith, even though I lost 5 people in 5 years, it impacted me that I want to go out and make a difference for others. You want to change, even if it's just a little bit of the world. So yeah, I work hard, I really do, but I believe it's what we're supposed to do. I told my kids many times, Peter got out of the boat to go meet Jesus. Jesus didn't come and get him, and there was a reason. He expected effort from Peter. He held out his hand, and he's doing it right now. He did everything as types and shadows. So God holds out his hand every day, and he gives us opportunities. But it's what we seize and what we believe we're capable of doing and what we speak from our mouth. We have the ability to negatively or positively affect our lives and others by what we say and do. So I think that I'm just one person out of millions of people, but I believe I can make a difference, and I will make a difference. And at the end of the day, people, the reason they tune into HGTV and Magnolia Network is because they need to drown out the pain, and they need to focus on something else. And I hope, if nothing else in my message that I get across, is that they matter and their lives matter, and that everything is going to be okay. Today can be absolutely horrible. You have to put that to bed. And you have to know that God said, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And it may be hard tomorrow. Tomorrow may be another hard day. But I assure you, if you keep getting up and you keep pushing and you keep pushing, it will get better. It will get better. I've been down to where we had to count for my husband's insulin needles. He literally, I was a young bride, and I was used to not having anything, so it really didn't matter to me. It wasn't sacrifice to me, it was everyday life. And so he came home, and 2 stories, I only had 9 years. We were together from the time we were 13, and we got married at 21, and we had Jeremy when I was 22. And literally he left me when he was 29. And the 2 stories that I always tell my son, and I would love for the world to know his heart. We were down to counting change in a jug. He was a diabetic, and he had to have his insulin needles. They were $1.02. We had to count out 100 pennies so that we had enough to get his, and that was okay. And I remember that Christmas, we were getting ready to have Jeremy, and we said we weren't going to buy anything. We were both going to make something for each other. And so I was working at a clothing retailer, and he was working for a plumbing company. And he kept coming home late every night. And I was like, why are you late? And he was like, suspicious women. And I'm like, why are you late? Why are you late? And he kept saying, dear, I just had to work over. So Christmas morning I got up, and there was this beautiful curio sitting in the living room, and it had these little, Kmart was open then, it had these little brass figurines. And I remember I cried, and I said, we don't have the money for that. We don't have the money for that. And he looked at me and he said, do you remember all of those days that I was late? And I said, yeah. And he said, I collected scrap metal every day after the job was over, and then I sold it so that I could make enough to buy this for you. That my friend, is sacrifice. It's memories like that. You can have the shortest lifespan, but with a heart like that, you never forget that. It impacted me for the rest of my life. And it reminded me to always look at the cup as half full, not half empty, because although I had a short span of a life, I don't believe that I'll ever feel that kind of love again. It was just such a beautiful story. So when people are hurting, and I always tell them to look at the situation and find the love within it and hold on to that, because it will last you a lifetime. He's been gone. I'm going to be 56 this year, and he's been gone since I was 29. And his love's never left me. When we impact a heart, we never really lose it. Yeah, it's an amazing story. It was an amazing story. He was an amazing man.
I'm sorry that you went through that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But you know what, honey? Life makes us. If I hadn't had that loss, if I hadn't gone through all the things I've gone through in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. I think the struggle makes us.
Yep.
I think that God allows us to go through certain things because He knows with every trial and every test we get a little stronger. We're always dependent on Him, and we always need Him, and we always have to put Him first. But that's why I started building. I love building for people. I love making them smile. I love watching people pick out their colors and redecorating their homes for them. It brings them joy. And that's what it's all about. And that's why when people come through Front Royal, I want them to say, you know, Shelly Cook rebuilt that. Shelly Cook redid that. Because I have a big vision for this little town. I have wonderful memories on the back of a pickup truck with my grandfather going through town. It's illegal now. They would, you know, put people in jail for that now. But when we were kids, they threw us on the back of the truck, dirty knees, whatever. Just don't sit on the humps, they'd say. So, but it's memories that last a lifetime. And I want our kids to have that. I want them to ride through Front Royal and still see the beauty of it.